Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Prosper series. My name is Adriana, and I support Cello Community. And it's so great to have everyone here today. And so to begin, especially if you're new to Prosper, I would love to hear where you're coming in from. So if you want to just put in the chat the city and country, we can have a sense today of who's in our virtual room. Awesome. Germany representing, definitely, with our speakers from Positive Blockchain, which is awesome. Toronto, Oakland, London, Hong Kong, and San Francisco. Wonderful. Thailand even. Great. Completely opposite time zone from where I'm at. I'm in El Cerrito, California, near San Francisco. Nigeria and Turkey. Beautiful. Great. So the vision of the Prosper series is to envision, ideate, and create a new world of prosperity for all. And so I'm excited that we're all here together. And today we're going to be talking about blockchain for prosperity. And I just want to give a few words for those of you that might be new to Prosper. Is that Prosper actually began as an in-person retreat. We gathered over a weekend in November to bring developers, designers, dreamers, and doers together towards building this mission. So the question was, what if money were beautiful, and how would we create that world? So of course, because of the current global pandemic, we are instead bringing Prosper online into bite-sized chunks in a weekly series, which we're also excited about because it means that Prosper will be more accessible to people around the world, and we can gather globally across time and space. And so to get us into this energy of prosperity before handing it off and going straight into our session, I invite you to join me in a short meditation that we like to do as part of a ritual at Prosper to connect with the frequency of prosperity. So I invite you, if you feel comfortable, to gently close your eyes and begin to tune into the inflow and outflow of your breath, knowing that as we gather together and share our intentions for prosperity, that we can allow that energy to grow. And feeling the breath as it comes in through the nose and following it all the way down to the base of the spine. And just taking a few breaths here as you feel where your sit bones are touching the earth. We just had Earth Day and it's springtime, so let's take a few breaths into the earth, connecting to that prosperity that automatically exists in this world from the earth. And just allowing a few breaths up from the earth, coming up into your body, nourishing you, noticing your breath slowing and deepening. And as you begin to rest a little bit more into this space, breathing up into your heart. And Charles Eisenstein, a quote from his book, Sacred Economics, is, "How beautiful can life be? We hardly dare imagine it." So in this space together, I invite you to imagine for yourself just how beautiful life can be. What are the images that arise? The feelings? How are you feeling? Creating that multi-sensory experience of prosperity and beauty. Just allowing that to percolate for a few breaths. And then after your next breath, gently opening up the eyes and coming back into the room. And so as a step towards that vision, I'm super excited to have with us Maciej, Carmen, and Sandeep from Positive Blockchain to talk about how blockchain can support a new world. and specifically for socioeconomic and sustainable impact. And so Positive Blockchain is an organization, it's open source database and media platform and community to address this very question of how blockchain can move our world forward. So what I love about all three of these speakers that we have today is that each of them have their own background in socioeconomic impact and sustainability that then led them to blockchain because they believe in it as a technology to innovate us forward. So with that, I'm going to invite Maciej up to the screen to begin here.
Hi. Hi, hello.
Great, we can hear you. Awesome.
Thanks, Adriana, very much. Thanks for the invitation. I'm Maciej from Positive Blockchain. Hello from Berlin. Hope you're well and safe wherever you are. So we are here to talk about blockchain for prosperity. So what is actually prosperity? You know, how do we define it? How do we measure it? What is impact? So probably some of you might know that UN has established 17 Sustainable Development Goals. They have a lot of targets, and they basically the target is set for the targets are set for 2030, and a lot of that, what we are doing now in the world is connected to digital technologies and digitalization, which is based on data that is now more valued more than oil, which is currently costs negative money. And data is apart from being everywhere, data is unfortunately not really safe. We've heard about many breaches from companies like Facebook, Uber, Yahoo in the past years. It's really a big problem. And it's also not really trustworthy. So what does it mean for prosperity? So basically no access to data and problems with data means no prosperity. There is about 1.2 billion people that are, because of lack of the documents, they cannot prove their identity. That's one of the aspect of problems with data. There is 1.1 billion people that are completely off grid, so they don't have access to the internet and therefore to process data, to receive data, and moreover, 2 billion people are excluded completely from the banking system, and they are so-called unbanked people. So what is the solution for that? So we tend to think that social innovation can enable that social innovation can be a tool here, and it's supported by and enabled by digital technologies such as blockchain, which is, for those of you that don't really know anything about blockchain, we're not going to go very technical, just a few words of explanation. It's one of the distributed ledger technologies that has four main tenets. It's distributed, it's decentralized, immutable, meaning that thanks to cryptography, we cannot change any transaction that has been processed and recorded on blockchain. And finally, and most importantly, it's transparent. So it doesn't mean that we see content of data, but we see the information about the transaction. So a lot of us are often asked about, there's a lot of hype about blockchain, and how can you tell that some projects are actually doing really any good? So we are relying on many studies being carried, especially Stanford School of Business, that has produced reports with hundreds of projects surveyed and measuring their the social impact. And what is interesting is that from those reports we can see that currently over 50% of projects surveyed claim that blockchain is absolutely necessary for solving the problem, which is a great increase from 20% from the 2018 report. So we can really see that that this is becoming important for those projects, and I invite you to look into that report for more. Yes.
Just a quick note that if you are sharing slides, we don't see them yet, and so I can also share them if that's easier.
Oh. Okay.
That's all good.
Okay.
I don't know if you were intending.
Yeah, I was sharing the screen. So what do I do now? Again, share the screen, right?
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen. And if you have any issues, I'm happy to pull it up.
Okay. So sorry, we have we are.
That's great.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, basically this is where I was at. I invite you to take a look at the Stanford reports. The current one from 2019 shows that 50% of the projects surveyed say that blockchain is necessary to solve the problem that they are tackling. And what is important here to say is that blockchain is used in those social impact projects mainly to facilitate payments and verify records. That hasn't changed in the last report. This is data for 2018. And the main benefit for most of those projects, for majority of those projects, is to reduce risk and fraud. So this is really about security and speed of transactions and also transparency. So just to talk briefly about real life issues such as financial inclusion that I've mentioned. We have 2 billion people that are excluded from the banking system, over 1 billion that have no proof of identity, and staggering numbers of in cost of remittances, of international remittances. So this, as you can see, is affecting a lot of UN development goals, about 6, 7, or even 8 of them. And what is, in this case, when we talk about financial inclusion related challenges, what are the solutions? So one of the solutions is to make digital finance. We're talking about data, digitalization, and here it's really, I think, important to quote some of the numbers that are pretty mind-blowing. There is a study that shows that 1% increase in remittances flows could lead to a 16% reduction in extreme poverty. That's massive. So just imagine how little can be done to achieve so much. And there are many cases of that digital solutions being really helpful. And some of you might know one of the mobile money services in Africa. There's actually a lot of them, but one most important, most known is M-Pesa in Kenya, that has been proven that it lifted almost 200,000 households, which is 2% of Kenyan population, out of poverty. So this is the mobile money. And when we link this with blockchain, which is basically what Telo is doing, so host of this event, and then we can have digital currencies and community currencies, social currencies, basically a new form of money that unleashes completely new potential for those challenges that I was just talking about. And it's not just about financial inclusion, obviously. There's many other aspects where blockchain projects are solving UN SDGs. Here are just a few examples of what those can be. And yeah, maybe just to briefly mention, one interesting is regards food supply chain. There are actually many projects doing that. It allows food supply chains to be transparent, and basically we as consumers, thanks to blockchain, that's securing and making the transactions immutable and so trustworthy, really, and transparent. We can see who is actually delivering the food, what happened to this food along the way when it reaches our shelves. So there's actually a lot of projects in agriculture. There are projects in traceability of minerals that can basically prove that materials like minerals used in a production of our mobile phones are actually coming from responsible sources, and that child labor is not, and slavery is not present in the production of those products. So there's really a lot of interesting use cases, and this is basically what Positive Blockchain does. We are connecting blockchain and social good. And Adriana, I will hand over here to Carmen.
Great. We do have a question around the names of the successful companies on those 5 use cases. I don't know if we want to address that now or later.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, that's a great question. This was just like some brief examples, but we will, following Carmen part, we will actually have a time to talk about with all of you in the audience about use cases. So feel free to ask what is your favorite use case or topic, or even SDG. If you are working in certain fields and you would like to find out more about, let's say, plastic pollution, we are happy to then discuss and those use cases with you. So we'll have time to bring up those names. So thanks for the question.
Awesome. Great. Thanks,
you.
Maciej. So I'm going to invite Carmen here up to the screen.
Hi. I hope you can all hear me. I'm Carmen.
Yes, we can hear you. Awesome.
Great. So I guess I'll carry on with this part of the introduction. Thanks for curating the slides at the same time. My name is Carmen. Great to be here. I will spend some minutes introducing what is Positive Blockchain and what we do and why we're doing them. Positive Blockchain is a nonprofit organization focusing on exploring the potential of blockchain for social good. I think we can move on to the next slide. Thank you. Hello. And we need some synchronization. Yes, right. So we started out as a very fluid and decentralized community back in 2018. I think looking at the calendar, we're just about 2 years old. The focus is, as Maciej established earlier, there seems to be quite a parallel universe going on, like a thing going on where the tax circle and the sustainable development circle are not always exchanging or talking to each other. Or maybe some of you in the audience would feel that, yeah, I know that there are many social impact challenges in the world. I know that there's climate change, there's pollution, there's gender equality. And I've heard somewhere in the news that this disruptive tech called blockchain could do something about it. But we have a common feeling that there's a lot of sort of fragmented buzz or noise or information out there. So we really come together from the starting point to say, hey, let's collect data. So we started out, that is the entry point of our work, we started mapping. Let's help maybe to denoise, if there's such a word, to denoise the ecosystem, make these information easily searchable, make them approachable for anyone in the public, or maybe startups, or maybe researchers to sort of navigate if they want to look for what blockchain projects in which part of the world are being developed, tested, or implemented by whom, and what sort of sustainable development challenge they're trying to solve. So if you're looking on this slide, you could see two versions of the database that we currently have on our website. If you go to PositiveBlockchain.io, so far we have crowdsourced over 800 projects. And on the left-hand side, you can see, maybe the thumbnail is a little bit small, it's a full version of entirely open source list, where we really list and categorize all the projects that we're able to find, and what sort of impact areas they're working on, where they are, any contact person, or any contact info such as location, headquarter, email address, how they're funded. Are they funded? Are they self-funded? Maybe they have corporate or some other form of sponsorship, or what stage you're at. It's something quite interesting. If anyone in the audience is interested in researching on some sort of what blockchain is doing in a certain sector, then you may come up with a question where, okay, is this has there been more commercial startup more active in the area, or maybe it's mostly driven by public sector, the government. On the right-hand side, you will see that we are gradually, bit by bit, migrating to sort of a database 2.0, where it has a different user interface, and where we try to summarize or list the different part of project info and really pack them, make it easy to see, okay, for example, the World Food Program has this project called the Building Blocks. They would be implemented in the refugee camps in Jordan, helping Syrian refugees. They are linked to which and which SDG, and how, or maybe which type of blockchain they're using. They're using Ethereum, and such sort of information as a convenient directory for anyone who would like to search. And moving on, this is a very quick overview of the activities that our volunteer team has since then branched out from beyond the database. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here because I think they're self-explanatory, and then I would show you a little bit earlier, but sorry, can we please quickly go back to the earlier slide? Thank you. There are several types of activities that we have been driving, and I'll explain it in the later slides in a little bit further. But here I want to mention why we have sort of branched out to these separate areas. A lot of the times in the broader ecosystem, we have heard that there's a blockchain is something a lot of people have heard about, but a lot of companies or sectors seem to feel uneasy to sort of test it or adopt it. And there are several challenges in the ecosystem. How to bring different disciplinaries together to collaboration, and also public understanding, maybe a little bit of public awareness, education. How do we denoise a lot of the jargon and make it really approachable and balanced for the public to understand? Or how do we regulate blockchain in different scenarios, such as privacy? Or maybe how do we design solutions in a way that are usable? So there are multiple challenges in the industry. For now, as a completely run by volunteer nonprofit, we're focusing mainly on supporting collaboration in the ecosystem, bringing parties, people, talents together, and building awareness, really sort of simplifying a lot of the jargons, so that we hope more of the mainstream public can join the Tech for Impact conversation. And going on to the next slides. Thank you. So you can see here, one of the key initiatives that we've been driving is our meetup series in Berlin, where Maciej and Sandeep they have been the core drivers of this meetup series. If you are based in Berlin, you might have heard of it. They are running a monthly meetup series, of course, before the coronavirus in person, and now possibly moving more to online format, where each month we gather around a certain theme, maybe blockchain for digital identity, maybe blockchain for health, or for supply chain, or for energy sector. And the meetup would invite different projects, relevant projects, to really introduce what they're doing or the challenges they're facing, to really engage with the public. Beyond Berlin, in the next slide, you can also see that we have also been engaging or building events, different type of events in different cities. You can see that a lot of them are in Europe, except one in Asia, which is in Hong Kong, because I'm from Hong Kong. I saw that someone in the audience is also from Hong Kong. So sometimes we do sort of meetup panel style events. We also join other form of workshops and talks. And if you are from, I see that earlier, a lot of you put in where you're from, so it will be really interesting maybe to hear from you later, see if you would like to sort of also drive or contribute to our local engagement with our team. Moving on. Yes, thank you. Sorry, and could we please go back to the map? Yes, thank you. This is a map where you can see our contributors, where our contributors are based. I think a lot of the times we tend to easily say that we're global, or organizations will say, oh, we're global. But on the map, you can really say that we're still very much based in Europe. And going back to sustainable development, development is very often much more relevant to developing regions where energy access, clean water, or a sound and just political system, government system are much more relevant topics than the much obviously more developed European region. So I would really encourage anyone in the audience, if you are seeing yourself, if you're based somewhere where we don't have anyone yet on this map, feel free to get in touch afterwards, because sustainable development is really a global thing, and we welcome all sort of perspectives to really make all these ecosystem exchange more inclusive. Moving on. Yes, so as a run by volunteer organization in different cities, how do we sort of stay in touch and work together? We have regular calls. We have our own online working sort of methods or system or tools, just like a lot of virtual teams are using. From time to time, of course, again, before Corona, we also would meet in person, sort of like in our mini retreats, so we do know one another face to face. And I see that someone is asking, what's the best way to get in touch? We're going to answer you in a bit. Moving on. Thanks again for curating the slides. So apart from events and workshops, which as if you have organized events and workshops, you know it takes a certain time and a certain location and to find people who are available at the same time. That is one way of sort of building, to sort of build an exchange opportunity. But there are other ways where beyond the cities that we're not in or beyond time zone, online content is also another way that we prioritize. So we also create sort of research-based content. What do I mean by research-based content? I don't know if anyone in the audience ever felt that if you look up or what sort of news that you receive online when it comes to blockchain, crypto, you know, sometimes there's a lot of PR buzz in it, promoting certain products, certain, or maybe certain project announcement, and maybe it's quite, yeah, someone is adding, yeah, conferences, expensive conferences. We haven't been able to finance an expensive conferences yet. Going back to online content, research-based contents mean we aim to create content where we really explain what's the impact challenge, let's say fake drugs that kill people, and how can, or what are the projects existing right now that are trying to tackle it. And we do this sort of social media video explainer. You can go to our Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook channel to sort of watch those videos. And from time to time, we also experiment with other content series, such as interview series. Instead of only talking about projects, we would also reach out to interview different interesting figures active in the industry. And in the next slide, you will also see from time to time, if the opportunity arises, okay, I'm only seeing me and not the slide. You will see that we also work with other partners to draft or write research reports. I think that there might be something, I hope it's not only me, I hope the slide is still showing somewhere.
I can share from my screen. Hold on one second, Carmen.
Thank you. Yeah, in the meantime, I could also continue. So content doesn't have to be just a snappy little video. So we also work on research reports. In that case, it was a short study with the GISAC Blockchain Lab and also Script Media, which is an important partner, on the topic of community currencies for those who are earning very little, really at the economic bottom. So what can community currencies do to maybe help alleviate their economic challenges? So now maybe, I hope I go back to, yes, we're back. And looking at the time, I'm just gonna quickly jump through the other sort of activities that we also work on. We also work with different partners. So this is an example, sorry, one slide back. Thank you, well, thank you so much for waiting. So this is one example where the public sector or maybe INGOs, they're not startups and they're not the general public, but they do have a lot of policy influence when it comes to integrating new technologies in social impact. So this case was with the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. They have, they established, I think in late 2018, this PPP, Public-Private Partnership Center of Excellence, focusing on sustainable health. Health comprises of a lot of things. There's drugs, there's a drug maker, the pharmacy retail, the doctors, you know, healthcare professional, and you, the patient. There's a lot of data involved. So what are the areas that blockchain could potentially be a solid use case to maybe alleviate some of the current inefficiency or challenges? So that was one project where some of our team members supported the UNECE, this working group, and sort of help bring in different multidisciplinary partners and really map out what are the existing use cases are out there, and maybe from then what sort of inspiration they could take with the group that they're in. And moving on, apart from these sort of more like consulting projects, we obviously are also active in organizing, let's say, startup competitions and hackathons. Some of them are, some of them don't have specific theme. They might be just like on the left for Blockchain Agora in Paris. That was a startup competition, just inviting different teams for everything related to planet and people. But sometimes we also drive hackathons that are focusing on a specific track, on maybe health or maybe supply chain. Moving on to the next slide, you would also see, and if we don't have the capacity to sort of host an event, we also help facilitate other workshops by other organizations. I think these are some examples in Berlin, where we sort of help curate a specific challenge or a specific track in a broader hackathon or in a broader summit. Moving on again. Yes, these are more examples, and we can also jump through this. Yes, this is an interesting note. I'm just going to comment on it very quickly. We have now talked about how we work with bigger NGOs or maybe the public sector or maybe the startups, but we also don't want to forget teenagers and obviously the corporate. So there was also a very interesting initiative driven by one contributor based in Berlin. She was very enthusiastic about the teenage target group. How can we break down all these blockchain jargon and engage or maybe introduce all these for our teens at school? So that was also something that we tried out. And moving on. Yes, you will see here, this is just a list of the different partners that we have collaborated with. To me, when I look at it, I really think it's quite interesting that a bunch of volunteers, most of us, if not all, are non-techies, including myself. A lot of us are not from a tech background, but through building this community together, we tested all these sort of events, content, research, study, writing, or interviewing to sort of try to see how we can support collaboration and education in the blockchain for impact space. And obviously that takes partners to sort of work together. And if we go on to the next slide, this is a call to action. Some of you have asked here how you could stay in touch or connect. We can leave our individual email address here if you want to shoot us a question or anything, but we would really encourage you to go to our homepage, scroll down a little bit, and then there's a colorful banner and sign up for a newsletter. This way we can make sure that we can also reach you in the future. And last but not least, the next slide. Yes, obviously we cannot meet in person anymore, but we are moving online. In mid-May, on the 14 and 15, we will be hosting a session about digital currencies online. So definitely mark it in your calendar or get in touch with us if you have any questions around anything that we're doing. And with this, I will hand over back to Adriana.
Thank you, Carmen. And so I think now we're going to share about some different use cases. So I would love to hear from the audience if you have different use cases that are important to you and your community that you're passionate about that we can address here while we have Positive Blockchain with us.
Yeah, feel free feel free to ask some questions in the chat. And in the meantime, Adriana, could you bring Sandeep on the screen, please?
Yes.
Thank you. So feel free. There were some questions I've seen from some of you about environment. I don't know. Are we having?
Yeah, we have one here. Blockchain for homeless donation.
Hello,
okay.
everyone.
Sandeep is with us. So yeah. So basically, before we move on to some other use cases that were already inquired about, I think I would like to quickly, Adriana, could you move to next slide, to Tello slide?
Yeah, while you move to the next slide, Bruno, I think we came across some projects where it was not homeless in specific, but there were projects around donation. For example, something which is also which is related to this project is Giving Block, where your donations go to some organization out there or some cause out there. So we have identified quite a few projects in that area.
Yes.
We'll also be hearing from Giving Block at the end here, since that's definitely a call to action to support COVID relief. So that's a great example.
Yep.
Yeah. Adriana, could you go to another slide, or maybe could you just enable us to share screen, so because we can then go to our
sure.
Yeah,
yep, I can come out.
Yeah, that would be perfect. That would be easier for us to show some cases. So let me just quickly share the screen, Sandeep, and I will answer one question, and then feel free to go back to environment question. So there was a question about poverty. Since we are at an event organized by Tello, Tello is, as I've mentioned before at the beginning of the presentation, Tello is actually indirectly a project that contributes to ending poverty, which is the first SDG, and it's doing so through an open platform that makes financial tools for financial inclusion accessible. And how it does it, which is, I think, really great, and I invite you to, if you are not familiar with technicalities, to follow Tello for more details, to basically use your mobile phone, which almost everyone in the world has, even in most rural parts of the world. People have mobile phones and dummy phones and simple phones running on iOS system. And what Tello has developed is basically the system where money can be digital, and the user interface, it's so simple for people that they can basically use it as seamless as M-Pesa or Venmo works. And yeah, that's just one of the examples that of poverty. And the question was about environment.
Environment, no.
Yeah, I think we have. What questions did you note it for?
Wait, so I have homeless donation. Yes, environmental conservation. I think in this particular aspect, I can point out to a couple of projects there. One is IXO protocol, where the idea was to drive the community to create initiatives. So people who want to create something locally, I don't know, like there was one initiative from, if I remember correctly, it was about plastic. So people were given bounties. It's from Bounties Network, by the way. People had the chance to basically go collect some plastic and prove it to the prove it via their mobile, along with their showing that it is from that particular day, people were given stable coins in return as a token of gratitude. So this way, it was sort of grassroots level initiatives were being created at a smaller level. And Khalid is mentioning about ICSO as well, which also sort of is ICSO. The bigger goal is to create a protocol, so to speak, infrastructure, so to speak, where people can create causes. People who actually work on those causes can sort of say get incentivized when somebody else validates that particular action. Yeah. Yes. Are these all listed on our website? Yes. It's still work in progress, but you can find most of the projects based on whatever category you're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. So right.
Also, just a second. I just want to quickly point out that this Khalid and Micah, part of the community, they're also contributors at PositiveBlockchain. So just want to give a shout out to them. Yeah.
So this coming back to a question about the project, the database. As you can see, I'm sharing the screen, doing the live demo of our website. I was just showing you how this new version of the database works, where projects, different projects have their website. You can see, you can type by name or by category. We are still developing this database, but this is an example of a project in a sustainable supply chains. I'm sorry, in supply chains, and it's MindSpider from Berlin. They're doing incredible work making the supply chains of minerals that I was already pointing out to transparent and secure, and they have some great partners on board. So this is really already, you can say this is a pretty mainstream project.
Yeah, so I see a question there. If we do review pitch decks and give feedback on social projects, I have to say, and the second question, should we just add your startup in the Airtable? So we actually have a process. I'm just looking for the link, of course, and yeah, blockchain. Yeah, so you basically can fill out some data. We have some basic questions about your project, and then you can add your project onto our database, and then we basically sort of curate the information from there. And in terms of reviewing pitch decks, this is probably, like, I would say, the individual capacities of people. For example, my background is coming from a venture capital firm, so I worked in venture capital before, so this is something up my sleeve. So, and then on the other hand, we have Khalid and Micah who have expertise in product, in building products. Then Maciej is somebody who is expert, who has expertise in similar areas. Like, he's completely into agri-tech, if I'm not wrong, Maciej. Or I'll let you answer on your personally.
Yeah. So, but Bruno, I think this was coming from you. We are an open community, as Carmen was explaining earlier, volunteers, and we are trying to be supportive of each other. We are an open source database and open source community, so feel free to join our community, even if you don't have the knowledge of blockchain. I think this is really important that we stress this inclusiveness, because a lot of us joined PositiveBlockchain community to learn more about it, and by various actions. So feel free to drop us a line, and also we can continue the conversation after the event. And back to you, Adriana.
Yeah, we did have, I just wanted to note, we did have a question on homelessness. So I just wanted to make sure that that was also covered as a use case.
Yeah, Khalid actually helped us with that question. So he mentioned about alice.si. They at some point they have specific donation for homeless people. It's like a sub project under their page, their platform.
Yeah, and well, as Sandeep and Carmen were referring to our expertise, it's obviously not covering everything, and there is about 840 projects listed, and many more that are not in this space. So we obviously don't know all of them by heart, but we know where to find them. So currently in this new database, we can't find it, but we can always go to the to this table, and this is a full database. So you can look by category here, and yeah.
Fantastic.
So
awesome.
I know that you have some questions, so I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and we can bring Carmen back for the last bit of the session before we switch.
Let's bring her art up. So Maciej, I just, given your background, I'm just curious if there are examples of blockchain projects that aren't discriminating on people's socioeconomic background and education. So for example, off-grid, no access to internet. I know you also have a background with refugee and the humanitarian crisis. So I'm just curious of some examples there where blockchain can make an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is, regarding refugees, actually Celo has done some projects, pilot projects with refugees in Tanzania, if I'm not mistaken, and also refugees from Venezuela migrating to Colombia. And of course, one of the most well-known, very early project in blockchain space, in blockchain for impact, it was a project building blocks that was directed to refugees and run by World Food Program in the Jordanian refugee camp. So it was basically enabling distributing aid with blockchain technology, which was saving millions of dollars for World Food Program. This is actually closed, private blockchain. So it's one case, but I would say, coming back to like discrimination, and this is a very interesting topic, because we have studied a lot of those projects together with our friends and partners who are a member of the community at Script. And one of these projects in particular was absolutely astonishing in terms of approaching people from rural background, from one of the most dangerous and poorest countries in the world, which is Niger. And through the project called eArtsiki, this is developed by Hive Online startup, a startup that is based in Europe, but with offices in Africa as well, in collaboration with a big NGO, CARE International. They developed a blockchain application that enabled women in Niger to basically digitalize their savings and loans association, which is operating throughout the world, basically. So this project was so amazing because it was really making sure that people who have no access to grid, sometimes no internet, can still process the transactions and with their mobile phones, and that can be still processed on blockchain with some other technology. And this was really adjusted to to this demographic. So people who have sometimes no education and they were completely illiterate whatsoever. So yeah, there are a bunch of projects that are really taking into consideration a lot of those aspects.
Awesome, thank you. And I do want to ask for Carmen, just given all the research that's been done with all the use cases, if you've seen any interesting patterns in terms of geography or other things in your research.
800 cases in the database. Oh, if Sandeep, you want to jump in?
No, I thought you were muted, sorry.
Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I cannot summarize all the possible patterns in the 800 project. I'm going to sort of answer that from an Asian perspective because I was born and raised in Asia, and echoing to what I hinted at earlier, development has a very different reality in sort of Asia or maybe Latin America or Africa versus very developed EU. So my relatively narrow comparison is that I find that the challenges in Asia would be very different from the development challenges in Europe. And that could be pollution. That could be access to basic healthcare. That could be the number of people really in sort of the defined extreme poverty. I think there are 400 million people in Asia Pacific alone that really live on less than $2 a day. So because the set of development challenges are quite unique to the different regions, and now I'm only comparing like Europe and maybe Asia, and even in very general terms, the type of projects we see would be different. The way they need to design and tailor the solutions will also be different compared to Europe, where you have the EU and their respective bodies to look at holistically. Let's say, how do we tackle GDPR, the privacy, the data protection regulation? How do we make sure across all the European states, member states, whenever government is driving something or adopting blockchain, that all these data privacy rules is going to sort of integrate it in a uniform way. The funding, I think in Europe is also very different. I think the EU has its own sort of dedicated different arms and bodies to really have their accelerator projects and research, whereas in Asia, it's really like a diverse piece of puzzle. I'll just throw in quickly one example here. The Philippines. The Philippines is an island country where I think over half of the population are in the rural area. And financial inclusion would be a very different scenario for people in the Philippines versus us in, I don't know, Munich and Berlin, because imagine a country where half of the population must rely on very basic rural banks where all the accountings or stuff are probably still quite paper-based to sort of get their transfer, payment, or banking stuff done. So that is, to sort around it, there's a project called Project I2I, where Consensus developed some solutions to connect rural banks to the national banks, enabling financial inclusion for those people who don't have the easy access. It's a very general remark here, but just to highlight that those patterns would be very different, I think, geographically because of the challenges that they face and the unique, sometimes geography as well.
Yeah, and to add to the Philippines sort of context, also Tello was also running very, I think recently, end of last year, a pilot project in Philippines. I don't know where specifically, but visit their blog and to find out more about that. And also Bounty's network that was mentioned earlier by Sandeep. Bounty's network was doing an amazing project of beach cleanup in Manila, where they were inviting people to organizing this beach cleanup and paying in cryptocurrency in Ethereum for people that were collecting trash and cleaning the beaches there. So there might be some other projects that we don't know about. So if you know, then let us know.
Thanks all. Well, this is a great conversation. And since we're just after 9 here, let's move this over to the Zoom chat. The link has been posted in the chat and we'll post it again. Before closing out, first of all, I just want to thank Maciej, Carmen, and Sandeep for the work that you're doing. It's just phenomenal how you're really at the cutting edge of solving all these amazing world problems with this technology and also making it accessible for people for whom blockchain is really scary, right? So that's a lot of what you do. So thank you for doing that. I'm so excited that you're part of our Alliance member network. And before we close out here, I do want to invite Pat from the Giving Block up here, who's also part of the Alliance and in this network of partners of how blockchain is doing good in the world. So let me just invite him up here so he can share a little bit. Actually, I'm going to close out some of the folks from the screen here so we can make space for him.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. See. Okay, so we're going to invite Pat up and just to say that we encourage folks as a donation or as a gift for this experience to give to the COVID-19 relief cause through the Giving Block. So I'm welcome welcome Pat up here on the stage to share a few words about that.
Hey, Adriana, thanks for having me.
Hey, Pat.
Hey.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so background, a lot of you folks in here, I was looking through the chat in the group. I met a bunch of you at the Prosper Retreat in San Francisco. But our company sets up traditional nonprofits to take cryptocurrency donations. So the current campaign that we have going on is Crypto COVID-19. So some of you folks may have seen stuff on Twitter. We had like a charity poker tournament last night. We had Charlie Shrem, Charlie Lee, Peter McCormick, some really interesting people coming together to play poker, raise money for charity. But it's been this kind of decentralized campaign where we've got a little over 50 corporate partners from the cryptocurrency and blockchain industry who have put together sponsor dollars, are running fundraising events, directing ads like from CoinDesk, Cointelegraph, Brave browser. But ultimately, we've got, it's going to be a little over 20 as of this week, but frontline nonprofits that are either responding to the crisis on a medical front, getting PPE to the people who need it, who are serving the affected population, doing research on the actual disease, or responding to communities that are impacted as a result. So hunger, homelessness, refugees, veterans, children who need access to education, the meals they would normally get at school. It's a pretty holistic group of nonprofits we've pulled together. So the general idea here is we've currently raised, I think, close to $350,000 for nonprofits who are doing frontline response via cryptocurrency. And we're looking for organizations participating today to either come on board as a partner, supplying help with the marketing, sponsoring events. We have an upcoming concert on May 5th with Giving Tuesday and Twitch. That'll be fundraising for the nonprofits. And then individually, just donating crypto and connecting with these nonprofits, helping us spread the word on Twitter. But it's going to keep growing as a response to the COVID-19 crisis. And we don't really have an end date in sight as far as we can tell right now.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Pat, for sharing. And so there is a donate button down at the bottom. And also I just posted in the chat as well how you can donate crypto through the Giving Block for COVID-19 relief. So thanks for being here, Pat. And so now I welcome all of you to join us in a Zoom chat for those of you that want to connect further, meet the folks that were on the screen here sharing from PositiveBlockchain, and the folks that are on the call with all the different projects that we're doing. That the whole purpose here of this weekly series is to create a community, and we're shaping this together. So I do encourage you, if you're not already a part of our Discord channel, we have a button at the bottom, join the conversation to connect with the larger Celo community, and that's also where we will be sharing upcoming Prosper events, topics, and taking your input of what you want to see here, and also if you have a project or a cause related to prosperity that you would like to share with the community, we would love to see that. So with that, I hope to see you all again next week. We'll be doing a creative workshop on creating a zine on igniting our unique purpose with designer artist Tatiana out of Louisville, Kentucky. So I'm super excited for that. Get your pens and your papers back out for that creative exercise. And with that, we just hope that, that all beings prosper and are connected to their unique purpose, and that's what we're trying to create here together. So we'll see you over on Zoom, and I will share the link again shortly in the chat. So bye, everybody.